ekam aksharam hrudi nirantaram bhasate swayam likyate katham. Hridaya kuhara madhye kevalam brahmamatram jaham maham iti sakshat atmarupena bhati hrudi vishamanasa Chinvata Majjata Avana Chalana Rodha Atmanishto Bhavatvam. Deham Mrunmayavat Jadatmakam Aham Buddhirdatasyastyatva Naham Tattata Bhava Shukti Samaye Siddhatma Sadbhavata Koham Bhavayuta Kuto Radhiya Drishtatmanishtatmana Soham Spurtitaya Arunachala Shiva Purno Vibhati Swayam Soham Spurtitaya Arunachala Shiva Purno Vibhati Swayam. Namo Ramana. One moment. In this, the Thursday satsang from Ramana Maharshi Center for Learning, it has been our practice to select two verses from the work Guruvachaka Kovai by Muruganar Swamigal. The selection is done randomly by Revati Shankar Madam, and the practice is that there is a reading of each verse. Each verse reading is followed by a short meditation on its meaning. That is followed by the practice of self-enquiry for about 10 minutes. After these two segments of verse reading, meditation on meaning, and the practice of Atma Vicharam are completed, there will be summing up remarks either by Dilip ji or Venkatesh ji, as they are available today. And that will be followed by the offering of Sri Ramana. There will be the chanting by Vaibhavji and Prarthnama, and the puja team is away, so we will all be offering ourselves through enquiry. Who is the listener? There was a note, some message once again. Today the comments are by, the summing up remarks are by our president, Dr. Sarada. We begin the satsang by going to the first verse selected for us, 415. Verse 415 is from the segment Investigation into Truth, which is the first of the three segments. Investigation into truth, meditation on the truth, and experience of the truth. 415 is in investigation into truth. We find it in the subsegment authentic tapas. Authentic tapas, 415. Having through discrimination distinguished between the supreme para and the world, the apara, one should, through enquiry and dispassion, attain attachment to para and detachment from apara. Having through viveka, discrimination, distinguished between supreme para and the world apara, one should, through enquiry and dispassion, attain attachment to para will enter the world of liberation beyond the reach of even the gods. Tirukkural 346. The word about Muruganar Swamigal, the author of this work. Once a devotee of another guru comes and reports to Bhagavan that his guru has given all his disciples instructions to chant a japa 5,000 or so times, and by the end of the day they have to offer all the punya gain back to the guru, because any punya accrued also means we will have to spend that currency in this world or in some other world. It's only in that intention that to spend that money, the punya, which is more real currency than the currencies of this world, we will have to either be in this world or some other world. So the guru has asked, give me all the punya by the end of the day of sadhana. And Bhagavan reports that to the hall, especially addressing Muruganar Swamigal. See, this seems to be the case that there is this guru who wants his chelas, the disciples, to all do the sadhana, but then hand over all the punyas to him by the end of the day. See this strange practice, and Bhagavan laughingly says that, and Muruganar, out of the Saulabhya, the closeness, he says that Guru is far better, Bhagavan. Our own Guru, he not merely asks for the interest, which is the punya, but the very principle itself. The one who is doing the sadhana, he himself has to be offered. The I also has to be offered along with the mind. That completes the whole spiritual practice. When I and mind are offered, and Bhagavan laughs heartily with him when his legs are pulled, so to say, in front of everyone, that Guru is only asking for interest, whereas you are asking for capital itself. It's not that Muruganar would use that Saulabhya all the time. His bhakti was called as Palli Bhakti. Many a time, most of the time it is said, he would lie flat on the ground with face hitting the ground and never lift his head, completely prostrate. And even when Bhagavan asks questions, he will just lift his head a little bit and answer from there and again go back. So that was the surrender that allowed the Saulabhya of offering his I and mind to Bhagavan. So this whole verse is about offering of I and mind to the Para. First we should know what is the Para, what is the Apara, the world. Distinguish between them. Anything that appears apart from oneself, giving rise to this relative existence as I and mind. The mind is Apara. Anything which is appearing in this relationship as I and mind, as apart from oneself as mind, is Apara. The Para is that which cannot be seen by the eye, because it is the Adhara of both I and mind. The Apara is immanent and transcendental. It is immanent because it is the Adhara of the I. It is transcendental because it is the Adhara of everything. Once you find the Adhara of yourself in self-enquiry and efface the I, you will realize that that itself is the transcendental self, which is the self of all. So, the first job given by the verse is discriminate between Para and Apara. Apara is that which can be seen, that which can be known. Para is that which cannot be seen, that which cannot be known, but can be intuitively felt as the source of the I and mind. The practice that one has to do is have great strength of dispassion towards the Apara and have self-enquiry to take the I to the immanent self. Then the I and mind are transcendent. There we find that one is constantly with the Paravastu. One is not using the limited upadhis with the I thought and getting trapped in the, getting attached to the Aparavastus that are seen. But one rests with the source of the I and mind. Then with the strength of dispassion does attain. In enquiry what we do, whatever the thought that may be, that arises, it may arise out of the best of our thinking, which we thought that is the best of our thinking before, that too has to be let go of. One should have that dispassion That thought is apara. It is something that is in the area of mind. It is always making me trapped in the samsara as I and mind. Knowing this, having the viveka of this, with strong dispassion, whatever the mind thought may be about, one should drop it. As we drop, the strength that would have been dissipated on that particular thought will now be available to turn inward. So the dispassion gives you the tapasvic energy to attach yourself to the self. Without dispassion towards the apara, one cannot have attachment towards the para. That is what is said. Have attachment to the para and dispassion to the apara. Whatever is seen, let it go. Bhagavan has said, what more do we want? Now, in many talks, Bhagavan says, where the ego is not, it is not that it becomes a vacuum. Then the Atma Shakti, the Ishvara Shakti rises, and even the limited, apparent limited life is now conducted not by the absentee Jiva, but by the ever present Atma Shakti. Bhagavan says that. But then, why do we need that as a mind support? That is a mind support required for sadhana. The Guru is compassionate and says, when you let go of the relative ego, then all the duties you were thinking earlier you were doing will now be done by the Spurana, by the Ishvara Shakti. He says that the wholeness will rise and shine and will answer to the situations. But that thought is a mind. That thought is a support for I and mind. Why do we need that? That also has to be let go in sadhana, because the Guru is really the Paravastu, that which is beyond. He has come as the Apara form, manifested as the Ramana form, manifested as Ramana's teachings. But then the real following of Bhagavan's teachings would be to let go of that final support that the Guru is giving. That when you efface the ego, that current which is running the whole cosmos, the whole creation, all the worlds, that will enter into the samudra will enter the water droplet, as Kabir says. What more can be asked? And that is what comes about in Atma Vicharam. The I and mine are obliterated, and only Bhagavan is there. Let us sincerely sit in practice of Atma Vicharam for 10 minutes. Ujjwalji will be able to help us out. Thank you.
Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya.
Namo Ramana. We continue the satsang by going to the second verse selected for us, verse number 963. 963. We find this in the third segment, experience of the truth. The subsegment is non-dual jnana. Non-dual Advaitic jnana. 963. To remain unshakably established in non-dual jnana alone constitutes true valor. When you inquire into the matter, you discover that trying to exercise power over others, imagining through confusion of the mind that they are your enemies in this world, that is the sport of Maya, and which appears to be different from you, is surely a sign that an intense fear has seized you. To remain unshakably established in non-dual jnana alone constitutes true valor. When you inquire into the matter, you discover that trying to exercise power over others, imagining through confusion of mind that they are your enemies in this world, which itself is the sport of Maya and which appears to be different from you, the world appears to be different from you, is surely a sign that an intense fear has seized you. What is true valor? Who is the true dhira? What is true dhiratva? What is true courage? It's a difficult topic because we are not really comparing the courage of others. But then Muruganar, by the general summary, he covers the whole area of other types of valor. All other types of valor, Muruganar says, courage, dhiratva, arises because you see enemies. Either you have to be won through a battle of bullets, battle of words, battle of emotions. But all these display of relative valor is in the world, which we saw in the previous verse, is apara, is itself merely the play of Maya, that it is really not apart from you. What it really is only the self. The Jiva is the self, the Jagat is the self, the Ishvara is also the self. But then, due to ignorance, due to Maya, it appears that these three have real existence and we have to fight our enemies here in this world. The true enemy is only ignorance, is only not knowing who I am. And to efface that is true valor. How so? This morning in one of our groups, where our old batchmates from 1985, a person had visited Ladakh, and in Leh, There is a letter of a great soldier who at 22, just the day before he knew he is going to be attacked and killed, he has written a letter to his home. And one can't read even halfway through that letter, says my friend who has gone there. It is truly that. It requires great courage. Part of that letter, the great Dhira, he writes, I am going to be killed, but I am going to be with the angels. And if at all I have to take a birth back again, I would like it to be in India, and I would like to rejoin these armed forces and offer my body again. And there are contents as to how others can face courageously. The contents are so pure, the mind behind it is so clear, and the hand which has written the letter so steady, such a beautiful handwriting at that moment. It is indeed great valor. But what is the greatest valor? Greatest dhiratva? Not only offering your body, but also not asking that you will be again here in one form or the other, that to relinquish the need to exist apart from the paravastu. All kind of births, to relinquish that to one who is attached to a form. That is the greatest dhiratva, is it not? That if you can relinquish the body, understanding that we are going to a soldier's heaven, and definitely there is this wish in the mind, the Sukshma Sharira, that I would want to come back and serve and reoffer this body. It is a great penance, great tapas, great courage. But Bhagavan is saying here that even more courageous, the real courage, to remain unshakably established in the non-dual jnana alone constitutes true valor. In the non-dual jnana, there is no I and mine, no alambana on anything, no dependence on anything. And blessing, the only blessing that's coming out of that, if at all it can be said, is that everyone is this true jnana only. There is only that being, existence, consciousness, the self attending to itself, which is also now quietened into stillness. Not even the spurana is there, because the spurana was held and not asked for anything. There the non-dual jnana alone is there, therefore that has got to be you. Because there is nothing other than jnana, who else can you be? You have dropped the necessity for the eyes, for the brain, for the mind, and remaining one with Bhagavan. Mastan Sahib, when he approaches Bhagavan, Bhagavan asks him, do you want Rupa Sadhana or do you want Arupa Sadhana? And the great one says, give me Arupa Sadhana. And Bhagavan teaches, go to the source of the mind. And Mastan Sahib teaches his disciples later, even if someone comes running with a spear that is to be thrust into your chest, you should not leave the nishta. He does not say lift up the gun from your hand and shoot, which is valor, is great valor. But then even greater, or the real valor, real courage, real dhiratva, is not to ask for any form. To understand that those who you have left behind are only this paravastu. And there is no need to tell them what to become, because the Atma Shakti is shining within each one. It is throbbing as I. And it is both the mother hen roosting those eggs, it is that embryo within the eggs. Definitely each of the embryos is going to break those shells and hatch out. No doubt about that. And our only job is to be in Nishta, is to be in the non-dual jnana. That the verse says is real valor. And Bhagavan's Upadesham and Bhagavan's presence as the Spurana, more than enough for the sadhaka to let go of the apara vastu, the seen world. Hold him, hold Bhagavan, hold this Purana, and Bhagavan will erase the I am the body idea. The I and mind will be erased by Bhagavan. We need not feel that we are erasing the I and mind. This Purana will erase the I and mind and merge you with it. And once it merges you with it, don't ask anything from Spurana. Don't ask anything from Bhagavan. You will know like Kohan, I am one with Guru Ramana. Aham, 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 aham. Don't ask anything from that. Then Bhagavan too will reveal that Sat is enough. There is no need for Sat Chit because Sat itself is Chit. That is our reality. That is not our reality. It is the reality. So that is what we are. We are that lion. Why we should bleat like goats? That's what Bhagavan is asking. Let's go fearlessly and gain that treasure which is truly ours. For the next 10 minutes, let us sit in Atma Ucharam. Ujjwalji will trouble you again.
Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya.
Namo Ramana. I request Dr. Sarada to give us the summing up remarks. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana. Prostrations to Ramana, shining as a self in all beings. With the immense grace of the self, manifest as Ramana, we are meditating on the verses of Guru Vachaka Kovai, and we are meditating, and after that we are also, by that grace, enjoying the sessions of self-enquiry. And today we had the two verses. The second verse talks about the dhira, or the valor of the one who is abiding in the self. In the Upanishad, it is said, Nayamatma balahinena labhyaha. One who is a coward, one who does not have courage, cannot attain to the self. So, getting back to the self requires courage. And in the Ramana Ashtottaram, Vishwanatha Swami gives the adjective or the nama to Bhagavan, Om Dhiraya Namaha, one who is most valorous. And we know that Bhagavan, he was a boy of 16, and we are very close to the date when Bhagavan faced death. Bhagavan also faced death. The very touching incident of the soldier who was ready to face death was narrated by Nandakumar ji to us today. It is truly touching. But look at this young boy of 16. He is in the pink of health. He's a 6-footer, probably more than 6 feet tall, very robust, and with such capacity, so much power, that all his classmates actually would tremble in front of him. They never dared to say anything to him, and he had that strength. He was a wrestler. He was versed in the martial art of Silambam. He was a great ace swimmer in the pink of health. And this boy of 16, he is not a trained soldier also, not to belittle anybody's courage or sacrifice, but he was not trained to accept death. He was not trained to face enemies and accept death to attain what is called the Veera Swarga. But he knew. And in that moment, on the 17th of July, 1896, he was alone. He was in the upstairs home of his younger paternal uncle, Subbu Iyer, in Madurai, and he was suddenly seized by a fear of death. The fear of death was so intense that he felt there was no avoiding the death. There was no avoiding the death. So what did he do? He says that the fear did not make him escape it in any way, or he did not seek to escape it in any way. Normally, when we have fear, we seek the help of others to protect us from the fearful object. What is so moving about the account of the soldier is that he is also not escaping it in any way. He is ready to face the death. And here was this young boy who was also ready to face his death. How? he actually went through the experience of death. He lay down, stretched his limbs, held his breath, and further did not, at that time Bhagavan says, did not speak any word. Now he does not say did not think any thought, because later he says, I never was conscious of an entity called the mind. I was conscious of an entity called the body. So the moment I stilled the body, I stilled the breath, I felt everything is gone completely. And he could vividly see that the body would be burnt and reduced to ashes. All this he was able to do. He was able to turn and his mind inward, and then he could ask himself, it's gone. It's gone. Body is dead, not it is going to be dead. It's gone. It has been cremated, burnt and reduced to ashes. Then who am I? So he was able to face the point of his complete non-existence of the identity. So that is called the dhiratva, the courage. And that is the courage to which Muruganar Swami is inviting us in this verse of the Guru Vachaka Kovai. But that courage which he is inviting us to, we may not be in a position to completely sever the eye in one go the way Bhagavan did, without any gradual practice, without any gradual thought about it. So then what do we do? Bhagavan's compassion, because he is aware of the fact that for us courage may come in spurts. So he tells us, take courage to drop thought. Be courageous enough to drop the thought. In another context, Nandakumar ji, while talking about cow Lakshmi, whose Nirvana day also falls in the month of June and is coming up next week, he said she was able to, she had the courage to surrender her everything to Bhagavan. And while doing Atma Vichara, if we have total faith that Bhagavan is taking care of everything, what am I going to do with this little thought? If we have the full faith, which that such faith is actually great courage. Total faith and total inquiry, intense inquiry, both require great courage, because we have to be ready to let go of the apparent supports that we have. And that is where we get back to the first verse which was brought to us today, that all other supports are only apparent supports, apara. They are not the supreme support. Why not seek the supreme support of the self? Why not seek the supreme support of the self? If one recognizes that all other supports are Maya also, the word Maya is also used. They are illusory, they are passing. Maya means what? It means it is not constant, it is not continuous, it appears and disappears. That which appears and disappears, that which is apart from us and therefore appears and disappears. And what all does this include? What all appears and disappears? Yes, the world appears and disappears. What about the body? That also appears and disappears. In the dream also, this body which is there in the waking is not there. It has disappeared. It's lying on the bed. But in our consciousness, it has disappeared. We have some other body. It has gone away. This body has gone away. And the mind, which, which gives us courage in a normal worldly situation, that mind has also disappeared in deep sleep. So, what happens? What remains? On the disappearance of the mind, what is it that can be called the courageous or the valorous entity? It is the self alone, which is the source of everything. So, getting back to the self is the act of greatest valor, but we require dispassion to do so, says Muruganar. Bhagavan says, use this dispassion to understand the difference between thought and thinker first. Difference between thought and thinker, as and when thought arises, recognize it is only the world. And another thing is, Bhagavan has simplified it for us. He has simplified it by putting all the apara into thought. Thought, the entire apara, which is so appears to be so myriad, so vast. This, that which is apart from me, he has reduced it to the simple fact it rises only as thought. Everything other than me rises in me as a thought. So all I have to do is every moment exercise the courage to drop that one thought which has arisen. Drop that one thought to the question, for whom is this thought? And I, who am I? And to turn back to the source of the I. That is the courage which is required every time a thought arises. Have it. Bhagavan gives the example of a fortress. He says, if one lays siege to the fortress, then the enemy within has to exhaust his armory at some point of time. So, lay siege through self enquiry. That is he gives the example of a warrior for self enquiry. He also gives the example of a pearl diver who has to go down with so much of courage, because the breath has to be held. Nowadays, we have equipment which can help us to breathe underwater. But Bhagavan is talking of those times when a pearl diver, in fact, I believe the pearl divers would tie a heavy stone to themselves in order to just get that pearl which is at the bottom of the sea. With what courage? They are ready to hold their breath. They are ready to give up that, even the breath which is so dear to them, and dive within for that precious pearl or precious ruby which they may find at the bottom of the sea. That is what Bhagavan is asking us to do over here. And he is encouraging us, he is telling us, don't think self-enquiry is some very, very simple or uh, just just by the side of any other task, a task to be done, as if it is just a small little thing that we are doing. It requires that much courage. So if we are doing that, then let us be very happy that Bhagavan has allowed us to do that self-enquiry, that he is supporting us, that he is giving us that courage to turn within and perform this great task of diving within into the self. Let us not treat it as any ordinary task in our life. This self enquiry, let us understand that it is such a magnificent task, such a magnificent task that Bhagavan is supporting us to do. And with that thrill, let us get back into the self every time with, with the courage and with the understanding that all else is meaningless in any case, and the self alone is of true value. The self is of limitless value. So, with that joy, which gives us the courage, let us keep turning back until there is no further need, and one is, as Nandakumar says, has become steadily dissolved. Actually, one has become dissolved into the self. and the self alone remains. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri.
Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana.
May I request Vaibhavji and Pratnama to do the chanting for us. Those who are listening, we will inquire as to who is the listener, because we have been listening with bhakti to these namas of Bhagavan. There is an ease of attention. There is a very light touch of attention itself. We are able to listen with bhakti, with that deep laya, which is much more deeper than prana observation laya. One can easily inquire who is the listener, because Ashtotram has that mahima of detaching us from everything else, and it has done that for us. For years we have been listening, and with that Bhagwan's grace, which allows us to listen to it with very light touch, very, very light touch, we can easily inquire who is the listener and offer our eye to and the listening to Bhagavan. May I request Vaibhavji and Pratnama to begin chanting Namo Ramana.
नमो रमण भारद्वाज विश्वनाथ विरचितं श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तर शतनामावलिः अपार सच्चित् सुखवारिराशे यस्योर्विमात्रं भुवनं समस्तं गुहाहितं तं रमणं गभीरं चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि ॐ महासेन महोंसेन जाताय नमः ॐ श्रीरमणाय नमः ॐ गुरवे नमः ॐ अखण्डसंविदाकाराय नमः ॐ महौजसे नमः ॐ कारणोद्भवाय नमः ॐ जगद्धितावताराय नमः ॐ श्रीभूमिनाथस्थलोस्थिताय नमः ॐ पराशरकुलोत्तंसाय नमः ॐ सुन्दरार्यतपःफलाय नमः ॐ कमनीयसुचारित्राय नमः ॐ सहायाम्बा सहायवते नमः ॐ शोणाचलमहोलीनमानसाय नमः ॐ स्वर्णहस्तकाय नमः ॐ श्रीमद्द्वादशान्तमहास्थले लब्धविद्योदयाय नमः ॐ महाशक्तिनिपातेन प्रबुद्धाय नमः ॐ परमार्थविदे नमः ॐ तीव्राय नमः ॐ पितृपदान्वेषिणे नमः ॐ इन्दुमौलिना पितृमते नमः ॐ पितुरादेशतः शोर्णशैलं प्राप्ताय नमः ॐ तपोमयाय नमः ॐ उदासीनाय नमः ॐ महायोगिने नमः ॐ महोत्साहाय नमः ॐ कुशाग्रदिये नमः ॐ शान्तसङ्कल्पसम्भ्रमाय नमः ॐ सुसन्दृशे नमः ॐ सवित्रे नमः ॐ स्थिराय नमः ॐ तपक्षपितसर्वाङ्गाय नमः ॐ पुल्लाम्बुजविलोचनाय नमः ॐ चन्द्रिकासितहासश्रीमण्डिताननमण्डलाय नमः ॐ चूतवाट्यां समासीनाय नमः ॐ चूर्णिताखिलविभ्रमाय नमः ॐ वेदवेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञाय नमः ॐ चिन्मुद्रिणे नमः ॐ त्रिगुणातिगाय नमः ॐ विरूपाक्षगुहावासाय नमः ॐ विराजितजलकृतये नमः ॐ उद्दीप्तनयनाय नमः ॐ पूर्णाय नमः ॐ रचिताचलताण्डवाय नमः ॐ गम्भीराय नमः ॐ परमाचार्याय नमः ॐ सुप्रसन्नाय नमः ॐ अभयप्रदाय नमः ॐ दक्षिणास्यनिभाय नमः ॐ धीराय नमः ॐ दक्षिणाभिमुखाय नमः ॐ स्वराजे नमः ॐ महर्षये नमः ॐ भगवते नमः ॐ ईड्याय नमः ॐ भूमविद्याविशारदाय नमः। ॐ विमलाय नमः। ॐ दीर्घदर्शिने नमः। ॐ आप्ताय नमः। ॐ ऋजुमार्गप्रदर्शकाय नमः। ॐ समदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्यदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्याय नमः। ॐ प्रशान्ताय नमः। ॐ अमितविक्रमाय नमः। ॐ सुकुमाराय नमः। ॐ सदानन्दाय नमः। ॐ मृदुभाषिणे नमः। ॐ दयार्णवाय नमः। ॐ श्रीशोणाचलऋद्बोधस्कन्दाश्रमनिकेतनाय नमः। ॐ सद्दर्शनोपदेश्रे नमः। ॐ सद्भक्तवृन्दपरिवृताय नमः। ॐ गणेशमुनिभृङ्गेन सेविताङ्घ्रिसरोरुहाय नमः। ॐ गीतोपदेशसारादिग्रन्थसञ्चिन्नसंशयाय नमः। ॐ वर्णाश्रममतातीताय नमः। ॐ रसज्ञाय नमः। ॐ सौम्याय नमः। ॐ आत्मवते नमः। ॐ सर्वावनिमतस्थानाम् आराध्याय नमः। ॐ सर्वसद्गुणिने नमः। ॐ आत्मारामाय नमः। ॐ महाभागाय नमः। ॐ मातृमुक्तिविधायकाय नमः। ॐ विनताय नमः। ॐ विनुताय नमः। ॐ विप्राय नमः। ॐ मुनीन्द्राय नमः। ॐ पावकोज्ज्वलाय नमः। ॐ दर्शनादकसंहारिणे नमः। ॐ मौनेन स्वात्मबोधकाय नमः। ॐ ऋचान्तिकरसान्निध्याय नमः। ॐ स्मरणाद्बन्धमोचकाय नमः। ॐ अन्तस्तिमिरचण्डांशवे नमः। ॐ संसारार्णवतारकाय नमः। ॐ शोणादृशस्तुतिद्रष्टे नमः। ॐ हार्दविद्याप्रकाशकाय नमः। ॐ अविच्युतनिजप्रज्ञाय नमः। ॐ नैसर्गिकमहातपसे नमः। ॐ कमण्डलुधराय नमः। ॐ शुभ्रकौपीनवसनाय नमः। ॐ गुहाय नमः। ॐ दण्डपाणये नमः। ॐ कृपापूर्णाय नमः। ॐ भवरोगविषग्वराय नमः। ॐ स्कन्दाय नमः। ॐ देवतमाय नमः। ॐ अमर्त्याय नमः। ॐ सेनान्ये नमः। ॐ पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः। ॐ श्रीरमण भगवते नमः। श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तरशतनामपूजां समर्पयामि। यस्थानोररुणाचलस्य पदयोः स्मृत्याजनिं प्राप्यत दिव्यानुग्रहसुप्रवाहविवशात् साराप्रभावं गतः हृन्निष्ठस्वगभीरनित्यतपसा लोकान् पुनासेकरात् तस्मै श्रीरमणाय ते नम इदं लोकोत्तरज्योतिषे। ॐ नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय।
Namo Ramana, Namo Ramanaka, Namo
Namo
Ramana.
Ramana, sir. Namo Ramana.